And good morning, and another opportunity to talk with Karen Onan today, and she is representing the East Central Regional Development Commission, and underneath that heading is East Central Regional Transportation and Coordinating Council, and that's really where she spearheads and does so much. And Karen, welcome again, my dear.
Thank you. It's great to be here again. It's been a while.
Yeah, it feels like the months go so quick as we're wrapping up September here and heading into October. It's hard to believe. But this morning, let's bring in our interview guest today.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Terri Huro, who is a mayor of Quamba. She's a fabulous voice for that community, our whole community in the East Central region. And good morning, Terri.
Good morning.
And I also wanted to thank you for coming to the county fair this year, where we hooked up again and we had a chance to talk a little bit about some of the visions that you have with transportation. But before we do that, why don't you give us a little background on yourself?
I was born here in Mora. I grew up just east of town a little bit. I work here in town as a tattoo artist. I've been doing that for 17 years.
And then, if Karen doesn't mind, I just want to find out, so how did you, because typically community service, and that's what it is in my mind when you take on the role, whether it's mayor or you get on a council of some kind, I mean, you have to have a heart to be willing to help your community. So how did that all roll together?
Well, I like being involved in things. With the arts community, I've been involved in a couple different things, and I like being involved in having events and doing things like that. Growing up, my dad was on the Whited Township Board for a while,
cool. Okay.
so I was kind of familiar with it that way. I bought a house in 2013 in Quamba, and I went to vote, and I ended up getting written in for city council with 2 votes for an open seat. So I decided, why not? So being involved with that, I was on the city council, and then we started doing some planning commission stuff and kind of talking about zoning and that kind of stuff. So I got involved in that. And then I actually moved for a while, and then I came back, and right away they appointed me back to the city council. And then somehow I ended up on the ballot last time for mayor. So my term is up, so I am going to rerun. And I always tell people, like when we have open seats on the council, people always say, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm not qualified to do that. But I always tell people, if you have an interest, then you are qualified.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm an advocate for anybody running for any kind of office and just being involved, because everybody starts somewhere. Yeah.
Being involved allows you to make things happen. Your voice gets heard, and people will either follow what you say and do and want to help or not. But you find those people that you can join with to make things happen. And that's something that I really appreciate about you, that you do want to see things happen. That's something that I encourage people, if you're interested in the RTCC, let me know and let's get you involved. You have a voice. We want to know what people need in transportation. That's what the RTCC is a conduit. And Terri and I were talking earlier about some of the visions that she has. And with the RTCC and the RDC, we have a lot of influential people on these boards that I could maybe help with what Terri wants to do by introducing her to another group or a person or whatever to help her make her vision happen.
The East Central Regional Development Commission started all those years ago because they needed to have a way to help develop our communities in a variety of ways. We're talking transportation today, but there's many, many other facets to keep the development of our areas alive. And so these have been available not just here, but around our state and around the country. And those started all those years ago, probably with someone much like Terri who said, maybe I can help out. Maybe we can get the ball rolling here. And then, like you say, having the connections come together to help each other out. That's the key. And so Terri today, with some of her ideas, it was kind of funny before we came out, Terri found out she is now on the advisory panel because she showed some interest, and that's all it takes, because it really started your conversation with Terri, I think you'd met before, but was at the fair again this year, correct?
Yes.
As you alluded to.
Yes.
So can Terri share a couple of things that she's thinking about, and then we'll talk about the different things you've got coming up locally here too,
Oh,
Karen.
absolutely.
I very much enjoy riding bike, and I know back in 2014 they had talked about paving the old railroad bed trail from Mora, potentially all the way connecting it to the Hinckley Trail, where there's a trail that goes from Hinckley all the way up to Duluth. To me, that's fantastic. At first, it was very selfish reasons, like I want to ride my bike. But talking to people and my job, talking to people in the community, bringing it up because people know I'm interested in riding bike. I do it a lot. People tell me like, oh, that'd be great. And I'm getting all this feedback about how people think it's definitely needed in our community. So I started looking into why didn't that project go anywhere? And I was emailing county commissioners and saying, there was interest in this. What happened? The only response I got back was from Gene Anderson, and he had told me that at the time, it didn't seem like there was enough community interest, and they were worried about fundraising. I have written grants through like the East Central Regional Arts Council. I know there's money out for projects like that, the legacy funding. So I'm familiar with that. I've gone to Arts Advocacy Day as part of the legacy funding stuff. And so I do know there's so much money for trails and things like that. And I thought, there's money there. If it's not getting used in our community, it's getting used somewhere. Mm-hmm. Like, we might as well utilize it too. And from what I'm seeing, there's so much interest. So I'm really trying to drum up interest in kind of people who will support doing things like this, because to me, it's important. As far as transportation's concerned, a lot of the things are focused on elderly and disabled, which rightly so. But I do feel there is a need for alternative transportation options for people. Mm-hmm. We live in one of the poorer areas of the state. Having a safe paved trail to, like Quamba is 6 miles from Mora. But yeah, there's people in our community who don't have vehicles or don't have access to things like that. And it's having a healthier option. If I rode bike to work every day, I would save a lot of money in gas. And being active like that also improves physical health and mental health. Just having a little piece of pavement can really impact the community. And I think that would be fantastic to have more available for people. So
when you brought up the fact that mental health is a huge issue right now, and getting exercise is maybe step number one in mental health. And that's, a great reason right there.
Right.
I really want to help with this. And I believe that the RDC is a place for us to be able to work with, because Penny Simonson, who's on the RDC staff, she's interested in the bike trails and the different modalities of transportation. I think they call bicycles micromodality. So I am excited to be working with you moving forward. If you've got a passion for this, let's figure out how and who we can work with to make it happen.
Yeah.
And what the obstacles are. I know when I was on the EDA board in Mora, we talked about it. And I believe one of the issues was the maintenance of it.
Yep.
But how is it done in other communities? So we have to not reinvent the wheel, but how we can do it.
But I've always wondered, like with bikes, because people that are passionate about bikes and ride a lot really do utilize the trails, whether it's here or around the state of Minnesota. And if you have a snowmobile, you have to get a sticker, and then you can use the trails that are maintained throughout the state. Even with our cars, we pay something for our licenses to drive on the roads because of the maintenance. You mentioned maintenance. That's why I thought of it. So maybe they could have, for $10, a bike gets a sticker, and they can use it all over the state, for example. This is very freewheeling, by the way. But that funding would go for that to help do the maintenance. And I think anybody who loves to ride a bike would be more than willing to do that. Just like the ones who love snowmobiling will pay for the sticker and have it, or on your boat or on your your car.
Absolutely.
It's really no different. And that would be something to think about. And I just thought I'd throw that out.
See, we wouldn't have even known that idea.
Well, I'm sure somebody a lot smarter than me has thought of it. It's just a matter of implementing it and getting it into the process. As much as this state loves to ride bicycle, and I mean, we're making lanes all over the cities and stuff for it. Why wouldn't you just, that little extra would make the difference. So just a thought.
Well, one of the things for maintenance, I do know, because I have ridden the Munger Trail many times. It's usually, I think it's the DNR people who are maintaining that trail. And that trail is also open to using snowmobiles in the winter. So it's kind of a year-round access thing, which is nice. As far as I can tell so far, I think the DNR maintains those. I've ridden the entire Munger Trail multiple times. It's great. One thing I wanted to bring up too is economically, when we have bike trails and things available, it does draw a lot of
Absolutely.
people, and they do spend money at local businesses. I've actually had conversations with local business owners about this, and they don't see it. And that's something that it's kind of a bummer, because I think it was in June, I rode bike from Hinckley to Duluth, so it's 70 miles. And along the way, we stopped in Finlayson and we had breakfast. And then we stopped in Moose Lake at the brewery. You know, we made our stops, and then we got a hotel room in Duluth. And then we went out to eat. And then the next morning we went out to eat again. And then we stopped in Carleton and had lunch and we had coffee. It's really beneficial for communities too.
Absolutely.
So this will be something that can be added on to your to-do list, Karen, to get going with the transportation piece. Okay. Well, and speaking of transportation, there are some events that are coming up here really quick here, Karen. So talk about where you're going to be and what's going on.
Well, it's really important for the RTCC to have people realize who we are and what we do. And so the way we're doing that right now is because of these Operation Community Connects and these different expos that are going on in our communities, in our region, we are participating in them. So we have upcoming, and I want you to put these on your calendars because I'd like to meet you. And if you've heard us on the radio talking, please let me know that's where you've heard of us. Princeton Senior Fair is coming up on October 17th. The Canaba County Operation Community Connect is on October 20th, as well as the Chisago County Operation Community Connect. On October 21st, the next day, we'll be in Chisago at the Chisago Agewell Expo. And then on Saturday, November 5th, we'll be at the Isanti County Operation Community Connect. So we're traveling, and we'll have a little table there set up. We're usually right around other transportation providers. Not that we're a provider, but we're information. You can go onto our website, eastcentraltransit.com, and you'll find all this information and links to these different Operation Community Connects and Agewell Expos and such. So we hope to meet you all, and we'll have directories there available that explain what's available for transportation in our region, and we just want to talk and get to know you, find out if you're interested in volunteer driving, what you're interested in, and if you'd like to be a part of our group to have a voice in what we're doing.
Sounds good. And what we'll do too is I'm going to make sure Karen leaves me that list. I'll make sure I get it to our news director, and we will highlight those throughout the weeks coming up.
Thank you.
So that people have that additional information.
Awesome.
That's what we're here for, right? Speaking of a hub, I like to think KBK is a little bit of a hub, you know. Well, in the meantime, Terri, congratulations again on being mayor, and I know upcoming election day is November 8th, and you'll be back on the ballot. In the meantime, Karen, anything else to wrap up, my dear?
I think we're set. I thank you so much.
It's always
thanks
a pleasure.
for having me here.
Yes, thanks for being in. And again, this update is partially funded by our friends at MnDOT.